Think about the last time someone pushed your buttons. Maybe it was a rude comment from a coworker, an unfair criticism from your partner, a driver who cut you off in traffic, a text that made your blood boil. In that moment, something happened inside you. Your chest tightened, your face flushed, your jaw clenched, words flew out of your mouth or your fingers typed furiously on your phone before you could stop them. And later, alone with your thoughts, you wished you could take it all back. You replayed the scene, thinking of all the things you should have said or shouldn't have said at all. Now imagine a different version of you. The version who pauses, who breathes, who looks at the provocation and simply chooses. This version doesn't suppress their feelings. They don't pretend the insult didn't hurt. They don't stuff down their anger until it explodes later. Instead, they have discovered a truth that most people never learn. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies your power. These words come from one of the most remarkable human beings of the 20th century, Viktor Frankl. Frankl was a psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps. He lost his wife, his parents, and almost everything he owned. He endured unimaginable suffering, and yet he emerged with a philosophy of life that has helped millions. He wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Think about the power of that insight. If you can find that space even half a second, you are no longer a puppet pulled by strings of impulse. You become the one holding the strings. Today, we're going to explore that space. We're going to look at why your brain reacts before you can think, how the ancient Stoics mastered this art thousands of years ago, the neuroscience of emotional regulation, and the practical techniques you can use to create more space between stimulus and response. Because the ability to not react to respond with clarity instead of impulse might be the single most important skill you ever develop. It will save your relationships. It will protect your peace. It will transform how you move through the world. Welcome to the power of not reacting. Part 1. Why you react: the neuroscience of the hijack. To master the art of not reacting, you first need to understand why you react in the first place. It's not a character flaw. It's not a lack of willpower. It's biology, specifically, the way your brain is wired for survival. Deep in your brain sits a small, almond-shaped cluster of neurons called the amygdala. The amygdala's job is simple but critical: detect threats and sound the alarm. When the amygdala perceives danger, whether it's a physical threat like a predator or a social threat like an insult, it hijacks your entire nervous system. It triggers the release of cortisol and adrenaline. It shuts down blood flow to your prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of your brain. It prepares your body for fight, flight, or freeze. This is the amygdala hijack, a term popularized by psychologist Daniel Goleman. This response saved your ancestors from saber-toothed tigers. It's fast, automatic, and powerful. It has to be. If you had to think about whether to run from a predator, you'd be lunch. But here's the problem. Your amygdala cannot tell the difference between a physical threat and a social one. A rude email? That's a tiger. An insult from a loved one? That's a tiger. A stranger cutting you off in traffic? Tiger. A critical comment on your post? Tiger. Your body prepares to fight. Your heart races. Your muscles tense. And your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that can reason, plan, and make conscious choices, goes offline. This is why you say things you regret. This is why you send that angry text at a.m. This is why you react before you can think. It's not because you're weak. It's because your ancient survival system has been triggered, and your modern thinking brain has been temporarily overridden. But here's the good news. You can train your brain to create space. You can strengthen the connection between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex so that when the alarm sounds, you don't automatically pull the trigger. This is called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and rewire itself in response to experience. Every time you pause instead of reacting, you're strengthening new neural pathways. Every time you choose a response instead of an impulse, you're building the muscle of self-regulation. The first step is simply knowing you are not your first impulse. Your first impulse is your amygdala talking. It's your survival system doing its job. You can acknowledge it without obeying it. The psychologist and author Dr. Daniel Siegel calls this the pause button. He writes, "Between what happens to you and how you respond, there is a space. In that space is your freedom. The goal is not to eliminate your emotions. The goal is to create enough space between the feeling and the action that you can choose." Part 2. The Stoic Framework. Respond, don't react. Long before modern neuroscience confirmed the workings of the amygdala, the ancient Stoic philosophers understood this truth implicitly. They built an entire philosophy around the recognition that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. Epictetus, born a slave, became one of history's most influential philosophers. His core teaching is remarkably simple, remarkably powerful. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Think about the radical implications of that statement. The event itself is neutral. It has no inherent meaning. It's your interpretation, your judgment, that creates the emotional storm. Someone cuts you off in traffic. The event is neutral. Your judgment, how dare they? They're so rude. They almost killed me. That's where the anger comes from. Your partner forgets to take out the trash. The event is neutral. Your judgment, they don't respect me. They never listen. I'm always the one doing everything. That's where the resentment comes from. Epictetus writes, "Men are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them." This is not about pretending that things don't bother you. It's about recognizing that your emotional response is not determined by the event, it's determined by your interpretation of the event, and interpretations can be examined, questioned, and changed. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, who wrote his private meditations while leading armies and governing an empire, took this even further. "You always own the option of having no opinion," he wrote. "There is never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you can't control. These things are not asking to be judged by you. Leave them alone." This is revolutionary. You don't have to have an opinion about everything that happens. You don't have to judge. You can simply let things exist without attaching to them. A stranger yells at you. You can choose to have no opinion. That's their issue, not mine. A project fails. You can choose to have no opinion. That's data, not a verdict on my worth. The weather ruins your plans. You can choose to have no opinion. That's nature, not a personal attack. The Stoics made a crucial distinction that we've largely forgotten in our modern world, a distinction between reaction and response. A reaction is automatic, impulsive, driven by the amygdala. It's fire spreading quickly, burning without thought, consuming everything in its path. A response is deliberate. It's the space between the event and the action. It's water, calm, measured, able to take the shape of any situation without losing its nature. Epictetus taught that most of life is outside our control. Other people's actions, the weather, our reputation, even our health. But in every situation, we carry a choice to react blindly or to respond wisely. This choice is small, but it is everything. The writer and philosopher Nassim Nicholas Taleb puts it this way: "You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a victim of your reactions to your circumstances." Part 3. What not reacting actually means. Let's be clear about what we're talking about and what we're not. Not reacting does not mean becoming emotionless. It doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending everything is fine. It doesn't mean being a robot who never gets angry, sad, or frustrated. Emotions are information. They tell you something matters. Your anger might be telling you that a boundary has been crossed. Your sadness might be telling you that you've lost something meaningful. Your fear might be telling you that you're entering unfamiliar territory. The goal isn't to kill the emotion. It's to stop letting the emotion kill your judgment. The psychologist Dr. Susan David, author of Emotional Agility, writes, "Discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life." Not reacting means creating distance between you and the emotion. It means observing your feelings, like clouds passing through the sky, acknowledging them, but not letting them own you. There's a beautiful metaphor from the Buddhist tradition. Imagine you're sitting on the bank of a river. Thoughts and feelings float by like leaves on the water. You can watch them pass. You don't have to jump in and grab everyone. Not reacting is the ability to watch the leaves float by without diving into the river. This is not detachment. It's not indifference. It's witnessing. You feel the feeling fully. You just don't let it drive the car. As one writer put it, not reacting doesn't mean you don't care. It means you are in control. Another metaphor, imagine a black hole. It absorbs everything that comes its way: light, matter, energy, yet it remains undisturbed. No effort, no resistance, just a quiet, unshakable presence. When insults, provocations, or random frustrations come your way, what if you could simply let them pass through you, not turning them into something, not reacting, just letting them exist without attaching to them? There's freedom in not needing to respond, a quiet strength in absorbing the world around you without being consumed by it. When someone shares a harsh opinion about you, it's easy to feel wounded. But what if the harm isn't in their words? What if the harm is in the story you tell yourself about their words? The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Other people's opinions are just that, opinions. They only have the power to harm you if you decide they do. The moment you label their words as hurtful, you begin to carry their judgment as if it belongs to you. But it doesn't. It belongs to them. Part 4. The Practical Tools, the Reactor's Toolkit. So how do you actually do this? How do you build the muscle of not reacting? How do you create that space between stimulus and response? Here are practical, science-backed techniques you can use starting today. Tool number 1, the pause breath. This is the foundation. When you feel the surge of emotion, the heat in your chest, the tension in your jaw, the impulse to speak or act, stop. Don't speak. Don't act. Just pause. Take one conscious breath. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. This simple act activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, which counteracts the fight or flight response. Just one conscious breath creates space. In that space, you are no longer a puppet pulled by strings of impulse. You become the observer. Psychologists call this the 60-second reset. Studies show that just 60 seconds of focused breathing can lower your heart rate, reduce cortisol levels, and bring your prefrontal cortex back online. Tool number 2, label the emotion. When you're triggered, name what's happening out loud or silently. I'm feeling anger. I'm feeling shame. I'm feeling defensive. I'm feeling rejected. This simple act of labeling activates your prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain. Research by neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman shows that labeling emotions reduces activity in the amygdala and increases activity in the prefrontal cortex. You're literally calming the alarm system by naming what it's doing. Tool number 3, ask the Stoic questions. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to ask 3 questions when he felt reactive. Is this something I can control? If it's outside your control, someone else's opinion, the weather, the past, the actions of others, let it go. Your energy is wasted there. Is this worth my peace? Will reacting to this matter in a week, a month, a year? If not, it's not worth your peace today. What would a wise person do? Channel your inner Stoic. Imagine Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus in your situation. What would they do? They wouldn't be a doormat, but they also wouldn't be a slave to their impulses. Tool number 4, reframe the situation. Cognitive reappraisal. Triggers are teachers. Every person who provokes you is showing you something about yourself. Why does this bother you so much? What wound is it touching? What belief is it challenging? When you reframe provocation as information, you stop being a victim and start being a student. Instead of, they're attacking me, try, what is this triggering in me? Instead of, this is unfair, try, what can I learn from this? Tool number 5, the 10-10-10 rule. Ask yourself, how will I feel about this in 10 minutes? In 10 months? In 10 years? Most of what triggers us will be forgotten in 10 days, let alone 10 years. The 10-10-10 rule puts your reaction in perspective. It reminds you that your peace is more valuable than winning a momentary argument or proving a point. Tool number 6, physical withdrawal. Sometimes the most powerful response is to physically remove yourself. Leave the room, go for a walk, step away from the keyboard. Tell the person, I need a moment. Let's continue this conversation later. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You're protecting your peace until you're calm enough to respond with clarity. As the writer and activist Aurelius said, caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation. Part 5, the power of silence. There's one more dimension to not reacting that deserves its own section, and that's the power of silence. When someone provokes you, they're often seeking a reaction. Your anger, your defensiveness. Your explanation, your justification, that's what they want. That's the fuel they're after. Your silence destroys their script. Think about it. When you argue with someone who's trying to upset you, you're playing their game. You're giving them exactly what they want: your energy, your attention, your emotional engagement. But when you say nothing, when you simply look at them without responding, when you turn and walk away, you break the loop. The journalist Norwal Zara writes, "One of the most valuable lessons I have learned in adulthood is that no reaction is often the best reaction." You can rarely go wrong with this approach. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not agreement. Silence is a statement: I will not be pulled into your drama. I will not dance to your music. My piece is not for sale. The writer and activist James Baldwin once said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." Sometimes the most powerful way to face a provocation is not with words, but with the quiet acknowledgement that this situation does not deserve your energy. There's a famous story about the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. A man came to him, angry and insulting. Epictetus listened calmly. When the man finished, Epictetus said, "You don't know me well enough to insult me. You're just throwing stones at a target you can't see." The man was disarmed. His insults had no effect. He walked away confused. That's the power of silence. It leaves the provocateur alone with their own anger, which is the loneliest place to be. Part 6. When not reacting is hard. Dealing with deep wounds. Let's be honest. Not reacting is easier said than done when the provocation touches a deep wound. Maybe you grew up with a parent who criticized you, so when a partner offers constructive feedback, you react as if you're being attacked. Maybe you were bullied as a child, so when a colleague speaks sharply to you, your body responds as if you're in danger. These are not overreactions. These are trigger responses. Your amygdala is not reacting to the present situation. It's reacting to a past wound that the present situation has activated. The neuroscience here is important. Traumatic memories are stored differently in the brain than ordinary memories. They're stored in the amygdala itself, which means they can be triggered without any input from your conscious thinking brain. This is why you can be having a perfectly fine day. Someone says something seemingly minor, and suddenly you're flooded with emotion. Your body is responding to a threat that isn't there, but that was there once. If this is you, the tools we've discussed are still useful, but they may not be enough on their own. Here are additional steps. Acknowledge the source. This reaction is not about today. It's about something that happened a long time ago. This doesn't excuse the reaction, but it explains it. Talk to someone, a therapist, a trusted friend, a support group. Deep wounds heal better when they're not carried alone. Practice self-compassion. Instead of judging yourself for reacting, say, "Of course I reacted that way. Given what I've been through, it makes sense, and I'm working on it." The goal is not to eliminate your triggers overnight. The goal is to create enough space that you can choose even when it's hard. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, author of The Body Keeps the Score, writes, "The greatest challenge for traumatized people is to become aware of their physical sensations without being overwhelmed by them. The same is true for those of us with deep wounds. We learn to feel the trigger and to respond, not react." Part 7. The long game: building the muscle. Not reacting is a skill, and like any skill, it requires practice. You won't master it overnight. You will fail. You will react when you wish you hadn't. You will say things you regret. That's not failure. That's practice. Here's how to build the muscle over time. Start small. Practice not reacting to small provocations first. The driver who cuts you off. The barista who gets your order wrong. The comment that's mildly annoying but not deeply wounding. Each small victory strengthens the neural pathways for self-regulation. Practice in safe environments. Meditation and mindfulness practices are like weightlifting for your attention and emotion regulation. Just 10 minutes a day can increase the gray matter in your prefrontal cortex and decrease the reactivity of your amygdala. Keep a reaction journal. At the end of each day, note one moment you reacted and wish you hadn't. Then, rewrite the scene. What would a wise response have looked like? This is not about shame. It's about rehearsal. The more you rehearse wise responses in your imagination, the more accessible they become in real life. Celebrate progress, not perfection. You will never be someone who never reacts. That's not the goal. The The goal is to react less often and to recover more quickly when you do. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Every moment you spend in reaction, stewing, ruminating, arguing, defending is a moment of your one precious life that you will never get back." Not reacting is not just about protecting your relationships. It's about protecting your life. Conclusion: master your mind. Let's come back to where we started. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies your power. Most people live their entire lives without discovering this space. They react automatically, impulsively, and then wonder why their relationships are strained, why they feel out of control, why peace always seems just out of reach. But you now know the secret. Not reacting is not weakness. It's the ultimate strength. It's the black hole that absorbs chaos without being disturbed. It's the water that takes the shape of any situation without losing its nature. It's the space between the fire and the fuel. The next time someone pushes your buttons, remember, you don't have to have an opinion. You don't have to judge. You don't have to react. You can pause. You can breathe. You can choose. And in that choice, that small, quiet, almost invisible choice, you reclaim your freedom. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus asked, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself?" Start now. Start today. Master your mind and discover the power of not reacting. Because the only thing you truly control in this chaotic, unpredictable, often unfair world is your own response. And that is enough. That is everything. You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never any need to get worked up. These things are not asking to be judged by you. Leave them alone. Marcus Aurelius. If this video resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to reclaim their power. Subscribe for more deep dives into Stoicism, psychology, and the art of living with intention. I'll see you in the next one.